Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, the 14th of November, 2016. I'm Richard Parr, and you are watching Sportuccino. We're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time this morning. If you've got any thoughts on the big stories in sport, let us know in the comments page. Also on Twitter at Sportuccino. We would love to hear from you. So much to cram into this 30 minutes. So let's get started with today's morning headlines. Lewis Hamilton wins the Brazilian Grand Prix to take the F1 title race down to the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. The Czech Republic win the Fed Cup for a third year in a row. They beat France 3-2 in the final. British speed skater Elise Christie has broken the world record for the 500 metres at a World Cup event in Salt Lake City. And in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots 31-24. Well, today's show is brought to you by Barclays Eagle Labs. Barclays Eagle Labs allows businesses to create, to innovate and to grow. And if you would like to know more about them, it's really easy. Just go to labs.uk.barclays. They've got private offices and co-working spaces for these businesses. If you want to know them, if you want to find out about them on Twitter, just go to @Eagle_Labs. Thanks to them for sponsoring today's show. If you would like to sponsor the show, it's really easy. Just send us an email, sportsdesk@sportuccino.com. Wow, what a weekend of sport we've had. We've had cricket, England versus India, drawing in that test series, that first, not the test series, but in the first test in Rajkot, the first of 5 tests in India. We've had the Formula One race, the Brazilian Grand Prix. It means it's going down to the wire. Plus, we've had UFC 205, we've had rugby, we've had so much going on this weekend. We're going to be talking about all of that in just a moment with my guest. But first, I want to take you in the direction of our daily poll every single weekday morning on Sportuccino, @Sportuccino. On the Twitter page, we have a daily poll. Let's have a look at what it is today. And our poll today is: what do you want the notorious MMA, that is Conor McGregor, to do next? Do you want him to defend his lightweight title, defend his featherweight title, or move up to middleweight, or retire? Let us know. What do you want the notorious MMA to do next? Let us know on Sportuccino. All right, let's have a look at the result of yesterday's poll, or Friday's poll in fact, because it's been going all weekend until Saturday. Let's have a look at that. Well, it was actually before the game. It was who will win between England and Scotland tonight. That was on Friday, and 100% of you thought it would be England. And guess what? 100% of you were exactly right, because England won 3-0, a huge win against Gordon Strachan's side. So let me bring in today's guest. We've got the football commentator, Barry Swain, and we'll start off talking a bit about England. Barry, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Richard. Very well, thank you very much.
Great to have you on the show. So, Barry, did you see the England game at all? What did you make of that performance?
I did watch the whole game, albeit I have a 2-year-old that decided that was the one night she was not going to go to bed at 7 o'clock. So I did watch the whole game, and 3-0 was, I think, a little bit flattering for England, and a bit of grief for Scotland, I think, when they were 3-0 down, and you felt, if they'd taken those chances, it could have been a whole different ballgame.
One of the things which we've heard in the last few days is Gareth Southgate has given that ultimatum. He says he wants to know if he's going to be England's manager by the end of the month. Has he done enough for you? Did they do enough for you on Friday for him to merit that role?
I don't think there's a lot of options beyond Gareth Southgate, to be honest with you, Richard. He's won a 2 out of 2. It wasn't convincing on Friday. It hasn't been convincing for a very long time. He knows the FA and the setup of the FA, working with under 21s, as good as anyone. And so he is an FA man, and I'm pretty certain that the FA will rubber stamp that contract sooner rather than later.
And what do you think about Gordon Strachan? is his job in jeopardy, do you think?
Oh, I think it is. With Gordon Strachan, I was saying to somebody over the weekend, it seems whenever he's had a crisis at Coventry, Southampton, Celtic, he seems to self-implode sometimes, doesn't he, Gordon Strachan? And there's just a few signs in the last few weeks and months that, he's beginning to take the strain on him. Again, like the England job, what are the options beyond Gordon Strachan? You'd have to look at someone like Steve Evans, perhaps, Ali McCoist. The options are very limited. He's done a decent job there, Gordon Strachan. They were a bit unlucky in the Euros. They were in a very, very tough qualifying group. Didn't make it to the finals. They must have been absolutely gutted. Every other home nation was in that final apart from them, in the finals apart from them. And it looks like they're going to miss out on the World Cup now, doesn't it?
Again, another big major tournament which Scotland won't be in. The only home nation who weren't at Euro 2016, that was Scotland. All right, Barry, we're going to get your thoughts on a few other things related to sport in just a moment. We're just going to have a look at what happened in the rugby over the weekend. Some huge matches going on, and we're going to get your thoughts on that in just a second. Let's have a look at the results from Saturday. So here they are, New Zealand bouncing back after that defeat against Ireland with a 68-10 victory over Italy in Rome. 10 tries for New Zealand, and the All Blacks rested many, many players for that match. What about England? 37-21 against South Africa. Their first win over South Africa since 2006. They've now got 10 wins out of 10 under Eddie Jones. Scotland against Australia. Heartbreak there for Scotland. Tavita Kuridrani with a 76-minute try for Australia as they snatched the victory there at Murrayfield. France 52-8 against Samoa. Virimi Vakatawa getting a hat-trick there in Toulouse. Wales, they were 24-20 winners over Argentina, coming off the back of their defeat to Australia the week before. And Ireland, after that historic victory over New Zealand in Chicago, they changed their entire team from the one that beat New Zealand, but they still managed to get 8 tries against Canada. So that is the results in the rugby, the Autumn Internationals from Saturday. Barry's joining us back now on Sportuccino. Barry, this England team under Eddie Jones, they just keep getting better and better, don't they?
Yeah, 10 out of 10. It's a fantastic achievement in 2016. Taking the Six Nations as well back in the early part of the year. And they've got to be favourites again for the one coming up. But obviously, you look at the likes of Ireland and that excellent result they had last week, and they might be pushing them for that Six Nations in the new year.
And I think with both England and Ireland doing so well right now, it looks good for the Lions tour next year as well.
It does look very good for the Lions tour as well. Wales are ticking along nicely, and Scotland keep improving as well, which is good. So yes, it is looking good for the Lions tour next year.
And I put a comment on the Sportuccino page over the weekend on Saturday, asking people what has Eddie Jones done exactly to transform this England side from 12 months ago. Obviously, it was a pretty pitiful World Cup England had. And one of the comments I got here from Andrew Binner, he said that Eddie Jones has improved their in-game decision-making, given them confidence, and they're a more mature side. Would you agree with that, Barry?
Yes, I would. They weren't a million miles off. I think before Eddie had stepped into the breach, but he's just tightened things up, made those necessary improvements, and now they're looking a force to be reckoned with. Yes, definitely.
They really are. Well, talking about forces to be reckoned with, Lewis Hamilton has been on great form in the Formula One recently. He won the Brazilian Grand Prix yesterday. He's now only 12 points behind his teammate and big rival, Nico Rosberg, 12 points behind for that Formula One title. It's going to go down to the wire in Abu Dhabi. I think I think Nico only needs to come third in that race. Does Hamilton stand a chance, do you think? Could he really make a dramatic conclusion to this season? Or is Nico going to win that title for the first time? What do you think will happen?
A little bit of a role reversal from a couple of years ago, if I remember right. But, the pressure's on Nico. He hasn't got to win the race. He can come third and Lewis win, and he still wins the title. The pressure is on Nico. All Lewis has got to do is just go out there and win the race and hope for the best. But it's going to be intriguing. It's going to go to the wire, and that should be a fantastic race in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it was very wet conditions yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. Really, there was a big complaint from Sebastian Vettel when they brought out the red flag. He felt that the race should have been stopped. What are your thoughts on when it gets in those conditions? Should they be forcing the races to go through, or should they actually just wait for another day? What do you think?
It's a very difficult one, and I suppose you probably speak to the drivers. They'll probably have differing opinions as well. I haven't actually seen the race in full yet. I've only seen news highlights, so I've got it recorded, so we'll have a look at it later. But, it's down. I mean, I'm not a Formula One racer, so it's very difficult for me to give an opinion. I'm not a massive motorsport fan, but I do watch it when I can. And, it's down to safety, I think, more than anything else. The vision and how far can you see out of the vehicle. But ultimately you speak to one driver and they'll say no, and the other one will say yes. So it's down to individuals, isn't it?
It really is. And talking about safety, I watched the UFC fight over the weekend. I don't know if did you see it at all, Conor McGregor?
I haven't seen that. No. I haven't seen that yet.
Barry, it was an amazing event. 5 fights on the card, and the main event being Conor McGregor beating Eddie Alvarez to become the first ever 2-division champion, holding 2 belts at the same time. He said he was going to revolutionise the sport, and he certainly has. What do you make of him as a character?
He is a character. I don't follow the sport religiously, but he is a character, certainly. And to win those 2 titles is a massive achievement. And he's certainly put himself on the map, hasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly has. I'll be talking a little bit more about that later in the show. Now, Barry, we know you as a football commentator. You've been on so many different media platforms, TalkSport in particular. And one of the things I know that you do is you run football commentary courses. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about those, please?
Yeah, we run occasional football commentary workshops. It's aimed at people that just two types of people really. People that want to become football commentators, young people that want to become football commentators, and there's a lot of them out there. And people that like their football and just want to be a football commentator for the day. So we kind of aim it at those type of people. We run one at the weekend, another very successful weekend where they come along, speak to myself, Carl Bates, a couple of other football commentators, and get some inside knowledge, pick up some tips, and then get to commentate on 90 minutes of football where we pick on a non-league game. It's pointless taking them to Old Trafford. It doesn't quite work out like that, and it'd be very expensive. So we take them to a non-league game. I went to Haringey Borough against Wroxham this weekend. Interesting game.
What was the score?
1-0. It always seems to be 1-0 when we take them to a workshop. Haringey mid-table, Wroxham rock bottom. 1-0 the home side won. Went with form. They had 4 goals disallowed as well, but Wroxham did it at the post. So there was plenty of opportunities for the guys that were commentating to voice the action. So they enjoyed that. Sadly, not 4 or 5 goals, but they enjoyed it.
And I'm sure they get a little copy of what they do, and it gives them a start of a show reel and experience and everything like that as well.
It does. It does. We've been running it since 2009, and we've had some people that have come through and moved on to some big things. There's 1 or 2 that are now commentators out there, not purely because they've come on the workshop, but it's a helping experience for them to come along, commentate on a match, and then go off and utilise the advice that we've given them and the experience they've got by picking up the microphone. They keep the audio as well, and so they've got a show reel. And what any top commentator will tell you is the best thing you could possibly do is to keep listening back to that show reel, pick up your faults and improve from there. It's like anything really in sport or in broadcast, as you know only too well. You can listen back to yourself and just keep improving.
Now, I bet you wish you had that when you started your career. You had that football commentary workshop. Obviously, you guys now run it, so it wasn't there. But why don't you tell us about your journey into commentary and how you got started?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I used to. I'm still a big fan of non-league football, and I was involved with my local team as a programme editor, press officer back in the day at Hitchin Town, and I was lucky enough to be there when in the mid-90s they had a little cup run, a couple of little FA Cup runs where they beat Bristol Rovers in the first round. So they kind of fired me as the press officer at the time, or the media man as it would now be called, into the limelight, as so to speak. And I was talking to one or two radio stations and arranging interviews, match of the day on the phone when we beat Bristol Rovers. So and I suddenly started to report on matches on the local BBC Three Counties, and then that turned into them ringing up and saying, "Can you come and do this game in the radio car?" And it evolves from there, and you keep making those steps, and you keep setting goals, and you keep hitting those goals, and then suddenly you find yourself top of the ladder. But it's taken a long time for me to build to where I am, and I'm still improving, and I'm still ultra critical on the work that I do behind the microphone. You've got to be to keep improving.
Yeah, you can only be your biggest worst critic. So Barry, what has been the greatest football match or sporting occasion that you've had the pleasure of working on?
Well, there's been a few. I've done a couple of playoff finals where I've been very lucky to have done them. One England game, which was nice. It was the Wayne Rooney sending off in Montenegro, which I voiced. And I've done over 1,000 games, and I'm very lucky now that I'm doing Premier League week in, week out. And I'm very much looking forward to this weekend, Southampton against Liverpool, which should be a cracker.
Yeah, Southampton against Liverpool. Liverpool are growing great guns at the moment. Are they genuine title contenders for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I had this conversation over the weekend with a couple of people, and if I had to call it at the moment, I would probably call Liverpool ahead of Manchester City. Manchester City are excellent. Liverpool haven't got that European commitment, a little bit like Chelsea. That, I think, could sway it towards them. It'd be very, very interesting. Arsenal are certainly in the mix. Maybe Tottenham as well, if they can get Harry Kane fit and firing. It's very interesting. I think this is going to be the best Premier League title race for a long time.
Well, Barry, it's been so great to have you on the show. Just before you go, why don't you tell us how we can continue to learn about you and what you're up to on Twitter and all the different social media platforms? And also, if you can tell us how we can find out about the Football Commentary Workshop, that would be great as well.
I'm on Twitter, I think it's Barry_Swain. But in terms of the Football Commentary Workshop, we're running workshops, I think, January, March. I think we're up north in April as well. And I think we're penciling one in for May. So they are selling out reasonably quickly. They're only £40, which, that included in that is the paying for the facilities and the recording and everything. So, it's very low cost, really. And you can pick up all the information on our website, which is quite simple, really, footballcommentator.co.uk. And we're on Twitter, and we've got a Facebook page via that website as well. So you can learn everything you need to know, or drop me an email, and I'll be only too pleased to assist.
Yeah, well, it's been so great to learn from you this morning, Barry. One last thing, where will the next football commentary workshop be held? What non-league game will we be going to next?
Well, I'm kind of bigging it up, really. It's Wembley, but it's Wembley FC against Hertford Town in the Spartan South Midlands League Premier Division at Vale Farm on Saturday the 7th of January, I think it is. It's an international break that weekend, and I try to arrange them around international breaks. Really looking forward to that one, actually. I've been down to Wembley to do some filming before, and it's actually a very nice club. You can see the arch of Wembley just in the background. Very well run club who probably should be punching above their weight or certainly above where they are at the moment in non-league terms, but that should be a good game, actually, because they're both doing very well, those two teams, and there's still a couple of slots available for that. Failing that, we've got one in March, one in April, one in May.
Superb. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. Don't worry about putting that it's at Vale Farm. Just say it's at Wembley. I think that's the most.
That's all I have been doing. Yeah.
Well, it's great.
The only trouble is I'll turn up on the day and they'll all be standing outside Wembley Stadium, and I'll be a couple of miles down the road at Vale Farm. So I have to give it in at some point.
Exactly. Well, Barry Swain, it's been great to have you on this morning's Sportuccino. Go and get yourself some breakfast.
I will. Coffee on the go. Thanks very much for having us, Richard.
Cheers, Barry. Thank you for being on today's Sportuccino. All right, let's have a quick look at how we can rate and review this show on iTunes. It's very, very easy. Here's a guide exactly how you can do it. Welcome to Sportuccino. All right, it's that time of the day. It's that time to eat stuff. Barry's gone for his breakfast, so we're going to do our daily product review. You can already hear me rustling Lizzie's gluten-free chocolate brownie. All right, let me tell you a bit about the nutritional information. Jeez, that's a lot of calories for 100 grams. How much is this? This is 65 grams. They don't have it for the 65 grams, only for the 100 grams. So this is saying it's 479 calories. So that's probably about 250 calories in this bar. And it's got not very much protein, 4.8. So again, in this bar, it's probably about 3 grams. The salt, fat, yeah, various carbohydrates, 50. So again, you're looking at about 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate. All right, is it tasty though? It might be gluten-free. I like to say gluten-free, but crucially, does it taste any good? Let's open it up. Let's try this bad boy. Oh, I've just broken it. It's going on the floor everywhere. This is not going to look attractive. Matt, try a little bit. There you go. Oh, it is tasty. Very chocolatey. What do you think, Matt?
Delicious.
He says delicious. I'm already choking. Take a glass of water. I can't remember what I paid for it, but I would definitely get it again. Gluten-free and very, very tasty. Really good there. Yeah, Lizzie's gluten-free. Buy it. Go eat it. That is delicious. That is one of the best tasting things we've had on the show. Healthy, nutritious, probably not necessarily. It's good that it's gluten-free, but it is very, very nice. I'm going to enjoy this after the show. All right, we've nearly run out of time. Let's have a quick reminder of today's sports headlines. Lewis Hamilton wins the Brazilian Grand Prix to take the F1 title race down to the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. The Czech Republic win the Fed Cup for a third year in a row. They beat France 3-2 in the final. British speed skater Elise Christie has broken the world record for the 500 metres at a World Cup event in Salt Lake City. And in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots 31-24. So that's it for another day of Sportuccino. I've been Richard Parr. You've been live on Facebook, live on YouTube. You might also be listening to this back on iTunes. Please rate and review our show on iTunes. It's been great to have you on this Monday, the 14th of November, talking all things sport, digesting sports at breakfast. We'll be back tomorrow morning from 8 GMT. We'll be looking ahead to England versus Spain in an international friendly. I can't wait for you to join me. We're back tomorrow morning at 8.